Vancouver, then move overseas for a few years, save up lots of money and live in Dubai and not have to pay income tax, and then move back to Vancouver and buy a townhouse in cash because the money they've saved up. Lots of different career paths as well. I think a lot of people think, oh, tourism's working in a restaurant or it's working in a hotel, but it's not. It's a lot more, and there's a lot of varied areas. The other thing too about tourism is that it probably is the industry that has the highest growth potential in British Columbia right now. So we've done a whole bunch of economic forecasting of all different industries, and it's forecasted that tourism will be the fastest growing industry in the province over the next 6 years, with about 85,000 jobs will be created in the next 5 years in tourism, and about 30,000 of them will be at the managerial level. So we're actually at a shortage of workers in a lot of the key areas in tourism.
Yeah, that's great information. Like even we are persuaded now to change the option. So
tell Rick and Jeanette we're out of here. Tourism now.
Can you specify how will specific BCIT courses contribute to this future success of students? Like, what are the best courses they take in tourism that they will really need for their future career?
Well, it's tough. I think sometimes it's a little bit like medical school. So because whatever course you're taking currently, a lot of students go, well, that's what they're taking an event management course, so I want to be in event management. Or they'll take a leisure travel course, and then they're really interested in leisure travel products and tour operator operations. So I think it's one where you need to take all of them and to sort of absorb it all, and then kind of start to reflect on where do you think your key strengths are. The thing that's most important about choosing a career is having passion for whatever you do. So there was a study that was done of 1,500 people, and it was done over a 20-year time period. And they were selected into two groups. So the first group of people chose their career based on how much money they could make in the career, and that was 83% of the sample of 1,500. And then the smaller group, 17%, were based on passion. So they chose a career not because of money, but because of interest in the area. And then they checked back 20 years later, and of the 1,500 people, there was 101 millionaires in the group. And of the 101, 100 of them were from the smaller group of people who were following their passion, as opposed to picking a career based on how much money they were going to make. So if you follow your passion, whatever that is, and then you'll find the pot of gold sort of there. The neat thing about tourism is if you love people and you love to travel, it's a great industry because there's huge opportunity, and you get to have a pretty fun career as well, because one of the most important things to do in our industry is to travel. So if you are working for a Vancouver hotel, you're going to see clients. You're going to Paris or London or New York or Los Angeles or Chicago. You're not going to Port Alberni or small towns. You're going to other major destinations because that's where the buyers of travel products are. And the trade shows are all in really great locations. Your meetings are happening at resorts in Hawaii. You're not going to Holiday Inn in the Deerfoot Trail in Calgary, which is pretty nice. It's so it's a fun industry that way, and it's a growing industry. And I think really you do need to, or you want to have passion for whatever career or whatever industry you go into, and people should really make that the primary consideration. What am I really interested in? And the money and success will come, whatever it is.
That's very good statistics.
That's a good one. I like that one.
What sort of internships are typical for this program?
Yeah, it depends on what the student's interested in. So what we try and do is the faculty get to know the students sort of during term 3, so the term we're in right now. And generally, I think at this term, people are more confused than they are in first year about what they want to be doing, because they're thinking, oh my God, I've got to pick an internship. Where am I going to do it? What do I want to do? And so I find a lot of students fall into a category where they're not really sure in terms of, they think, I think I'm maybe interested in this area and maybe interested in this area, but I'm, it's kind of a toss-up at this point. I don't know if I'm really cut out for that particular industry, or if I'm more, do I want to work for a small company or a large company? So I think that the important decisions are, what area of the industry you want to work in. And some people do clearly know. Like there's some people who know they want to work in the hotel business, but most people don't. Then I would say try and figure out, do you know what kind of organization do you want to work in? Do you want to work in an entrepreneurial organization that's small and aggressive and fast moving, or do you prefer the stability of larger organizations? And when you start asking people a lot of questions like that, they go, oh yeah, definitely, like I don't want to work on contract, I want to know how much money I'm making, you know, every 2 weeks, I like the stability. And then we go, okay, well then there's certain companies like that. And if you like contract work and you're more creative, then there's lots of opportunities that are along those lines as well. But if you can't decide if you want to work in a hotel or if you want to work in event management, then a good way to do it is for your directed studies, do it in the one area of the industry, special events industry, and then for your internship, do it in a hotel, or if you're not really sure if you want to work in a small organization or a large organization, do one with a small organization and one with a large organization. And that will kind of give you a good feel, and you get to know yourself better. Like, oh, I think I'm really good in those smaller, flexible organizations where I can kind of jump in and get my hands dirty and kind of do everything. Sometimes in the really large organizations, they just want you to sort of do this discrete amount of stuff. And like I found that quite frustrating in my career, where I didn't like it when my boss could put my job contribution to the organization in a little 6-of-a-page box with all the other salespeople. I found that quite frustrating. And I always wanted to have my own business. So, I went working from smaller and smaller organizations. I worked with Westin Hotels and Fairmont Hotels, and then a smaller boutique hotel company, and then started my own business. So it really kind of allows you to experience all sorts of different aspects of your career. So when you're younger, sometimes what your needs and wants are going to change 20 years down the road. When you start having kids, you kind of go, ooh, benefits, that's kind of nice to have, I like that. But when I'm young, hey, I'm willing to work in a wild and crazy, woolly atmosphere. And then as your kids get older, they might say, oh yeah, give me back that wild and crazy atmosphere. So it will depend on you, and if you know what area you want to work in. And if you don't, I would say have a wide experience. So, and the instructors are really good, because sometimes the student doesn't know where they should fit in the industry, right? It's like, oh, I don't really know where I fit in or what I should do. And we can say, well, I've seen quite a few students come through here, and I think you might, have you ever thought of this? And the challenge with a lot of these industries, whether it's communications or tourism or professional sales or entrepreneurship, people don't grow up and say, oh, I want to sell forklifts, or when I grow up, I want to be a event planner or whatever, because we don't know about these jobs, we don't know about these careers. So you have to kind of explore and find out about them and ask people. And the instructors are really good, because they'll know, in communications, all the different kinds of jobs that you can do. And so they'll say, oh, would you like to do this, or would you like to do that? And I'm a huge believer of going with your strengths. So minimize your weaknesses. What you suck at, you suck at. You can improve upon in school, but ultimately you will get paid more for being really good at what you're good at. So, concentrate on your areas of strengths and minimize your areas of weakness, which is sort of the opposite of school, right? We make you take math and economics and all that kind of stuff, and it's just like, forget it, because you won't need it. So you just want to, really, as much as possible, stick to where you're strong, to where your strengths are.
Can you more specify what is the director studies component, and what's the difference between internship and when does this take place?
Sure. So directed studies is, it's different for different options. So the communications option does it a little bit differently than everybody else. But everybody else, they'll form a group of 3 students, form a consulting company. So you form a consulting company, and then basically you find a client who has a real life marketing problem. And so a lot of times the students are really intimidated about trying to find a problem, but every year we have more companies that come to the school with problems than we have students available. So you actually are in usually a pretty good position where you can pick and choose a little bit on the kinds of problems that you want to work in. So you might say, oh, I'm really interested in adventure tourism, so I want to work with someone who's in that space of adventure tourism, or I'm really interested in mobile apps for iPhone and smartphone development, so you might want to work with a company in that area. So you work, 3 students get together. It's best that you sort of have a common interest, like you're all interested in a particular segment of the industry or a particular kind of problem. and then you find a client, and generally the clients are super willing because they come back year after year. And a lot of times what will happen is the client will think that their problem is quite small and not that big, and then the students start working on the problem. And so you work on your project for 20 weeks, 1 day per week,